Well, as threats from some in the EU towards Poland continue to escalate, of course, following that Polish court judgment, interesting to see that those in the party of Poland's ruling Law and Justice are refusing to roll over, and indeed the leader of their delegation in the European Parliament, Professor Ryszard Legutko, signalling that it could be a dirty Remainer strategy if the EU seek to punish Poland, with the Polish MEP quoted by the Telegraph as saying, "It seems that the Council managed to preserve a degree of common sense. We'll have to see what the Commission do." The President of the Commission has been acting rather strangely, and of course I've highlighted Ursula von der Leyen, part of her speech to the European Parliament.
When joining the European Union, the Polish people put their trust in the European Union. They expected the European Union to defend their rights, and rightly so. The Commission is the guardian of the treaty.
But also the fact that Angela Merkel is one of those seemingly trying to stop a Polexit and urging the EU not simply to try and punish Poland. And again, the Polish MEP here insisting his government would strike back against EU punishment, saying the Polish government has several options. It can sue the European Commission, though I wouldn't recommend it because I do not trust the European Court of Justice. There are other instruments like voting in the Council, the questions that are to be decided by consensus. And it's clear that some governments now are looking at the EU and wondering whether this is really in their best interests. Of course, you've had, for instance, in Poland, the Justice Minister saying Poland should not remain in the EU at all costs. That was something that was unthinkable to be said in Poland not that long ago. And of course, this goes against a lot of the British Remainer mainstream media narrative that we heard post-Brexit, that no other country was going to follow the UK out of the EU. In actual fact, it's being talked about more and more. But I'm sure you won't be seeing this anywhere in terms of mainstream media. So here is the Polish MEP who leads Poland's ruling party in the European Parliament. Watch this, guys, and let me know what you think. And of course, as ever, thanks for watching.
Once you keep this in mind, you will understand why this Parliament has been waging a cold war against and trying to destabilize conservative governments in Europe, and why, to achieve this end, they have been violating the basic principles of the treaties and made up the ad hoc rules that are not there. And in this inglorious task, they have been unfortunately seconded by other institutions, including the European Commission, which, at least since the times of Jean-Claude Juncker and Mr. Timmermans, became a political institution, strongly partisan, ideological, and arrogant. The principles of conferral, subsidiarity, and proportionality explicitly inscribed in the Article 5 were thrown overboard. To give an example, tomorrow there will be another chapter of Poland bashing because of our abortion law. That such matters as abortion are exclusively the competences of the nation state, who cares? The majority can outvote any restraining rule. If making 2 + 2 5 were to hurt the Polish government, they would not hesitate to put it to vote. And you know what? Chances are that they would have it carried. Having got rid of the basic principles of the treaties, they came up with their own rules, which don't exist in the treaties and which the treaties preclude. The first product of their inventive genius came from the Commission, and it was the rule of law framework. And that's then its parliamentary offspring, the rule of conditionality. An absolute outrage, a sheer monstrosity from a legal and moral point of view. So what? Might is right. The newest gizmo is the primacy of the EU law. In various public statements, this phrase has been immersed in a typical EU gobbledygook. But I would like to know what exactly you mean by making this claim, Madam President. There is not a word about it in the treaties. Where did you take it from? If not from the treaties, then where from? And what do you think it means? That the European law trumps the national law in the areas over which the EU has exclusive competences, this is a rather commonsensical statement. Nobody questions it. That the European law trumps the national law in the areas over which the EU does not have any competence? But this is absurd. It would be like the primacy of the European law over the law of the state of Texas. I'm sure that the majority of my colleagues in this chamber would want precisely this, but this does not make it any less absurd. Or perhaps, by primacy, you mean that the European institutions will decide which areas are under their competence and which are not, and the national institutions will have no power to oppose their decision. But this is a very dangerous concept, extremely dangerous, because it gives the EU omnipotence and omniscience it does not have, it cannot have, and to be frank, it does not deserve. Over the last decade, the EU has turned out unable to restrain itself and respect the limits imposed by the principles of conferral, subsidiarity, and proportionality. The trust that it will stay within the treaties in the years to come is gone. You see, Madam President, we are not afraid of European law. We are afraid of European lawlessness, of the tyranny of the majority, of an abuse of power, of the cavalier use of the treaties. Despite what one can see in the Parliament and in the Commission, might is not right.